I, a teen male, moved in with my dad 5 months ago. My parents always shared custody of me, but they broke up while Mom was pregnant with me. I made the decision to move in with my dad permanently. There are a few reasons for this. I like Dad's house better. He's around more and it feels more like home with him. I was kicked out of my bedroom at Mom's because her husband's daughter, 23, moved in with her boyfriend because they were expecting a baby. I got moved into the office on a couch. Then the boyfriend broke my school laptop because he used the office to work from. His and Mom's stepdaughter's reaction was that I was a whiny brat for thinking he should replace it. They also tossed out stuff that was still in my old room because Mom told me it wouldn't fit in the office with me. I was expected to help take care of Mom's stepdaughter, who's a total stranger to me, like making sure she had food and stuff while she was pregnant. My mom's husband is kind of a jerk and became worse after his daughter moved in. My decision to move out was controversial with Mom. She was upset and angry at first, but then the upset faded and her anger remained. I was asked a million questions and called spoiled when I explained my reasoning, especially about the loss of my room. I was told she would be living there and I was part-time there, so it made no sense to put them and the baby in the office. My mom wanted me to go to her house to see her, but I didn't. It's been months since I went. Her stepdaughter's baby was born too. Afterward, a party was thrown, and I didn't go even though Mom invited me. She called me after the party and asked where I'd been, and I told her out with my friends. She told me we had a new baby in the family. I told her the baby isn't in my family any more than her stepdaughter is. I told her I miss nothing and wouldn't be a part of that. She told me I am, whether I like it or not. And she told me she misses me and wants me over for dinner some nights at least. I told her no. She told me I should be grateful to have her, and one day I'll regret this. Am I the idiot? Wait, stepdaughter's pregnant and her boyfriend has moved in, but you were expected to look after the stepdaughter? Wow, that's ridiculous. Most pregnant women are perfectly capable of taking care of themselves. I'm pregnant for the second time, and I don't need anybody to give me food. Your mom wanted you to be your stepdaughter's slave, basically. The heck? This is what her boyfriend is for. She's 20-something years old. It's not your duty or job to look after her in the slightest. Don't feel bad, OP. Your mom's the one who'll someday regret not making you a priority. Geez Louise, what is wrong with your mom? No wonder your dad was smart enough to break up with her when you were a baby. Or maybe she dumped him because your mom acts entitled and self-centered, considering how she mistreats you. Losing your room was bad enough. Then destroying and throwing away your possessions was much worse. And then their entitlement that you're a slave, obligated to be a Cinderella to your stepsister and her himbo baby daddy. What the heck? Oh, and you're now obligated to be a free nanny to some kid that's not yours? Where's your childhood? Who does your mom think she is to not raise you, but instead exploit you because she's desperate to keep some loser she was dumb enough to marry? Maybe I'm a cranky old woman, but I cannot stand other women who pulled this crap on their kids or stepkids. Please live with your dad. He's the only responsible parent you have. And keep your distance from your mom. She only sees you as her unpaid employee. I'm a former foster kid who ended up with an incredible foster family who eventually adopted me when I turned 18 because I wanted to create legal ties with them. I credit them with giving me a good life after 7 years of a crap one, but I don't credit my former social worker for that success at all. So background. My mom lost custody of me when I was 5 and her older kids when they were 11 and 12. They had a different dad to me. I'm not sure what happened there, but when we first were taken from our mom, we were placed with a family member who eventually decided she didn't want us, and we were then placed in the same foster home. But my half-siblings hated me. They were always telling me I shouldn't have been born, trying to make me cry. They said my dad was dead, and they were glad because he was crappy, and that I was crappy too, and I should be dead like them. I never knew who my father was, and I don't know his name. No name on my original birth certificate. This started before we were taken into care, but continued until I was finally separated from them after an incident when I was 6. I was placed in 7 different foster homes before finding my family. My former social worker fought against me and my half-siblings being separated. And even when she lost the ability to keep us together, she insisted on visits between the three of us. I told her how they treated me. I recorded it once with my family's camcorder, and she didn't care. The visits stopped once my half-siblings aged out of the system. It was such a relief to no longer have them in my life. I knew they hated me, and I was terrified of seeing them. I used to not eat and sleep before those visits, and my parents tried to protect me, but they were ordered to maintain the visits. Even after they ended, my former social worker would tell me I should keep in touch with my half-siblings, and she'd tell me that I'd thank her one day. I ran into my former social worker recently, and she approached me and said I was one of her best success cases. I didn't want to hear it, so I told her I didn't credit her for that good outcome. She forced me to endure years of bullying and verbal abuse at the hands of bio-siblings, who she knew hated me. She insisted it was in my best interest when it was the worst thing she could have done. I told her that I hoped she'd learn from it and do better, but I'd never give her credit for how great my life has become. I walked away from her, and then last week, I ran into her again. She told me I had no reason to be so bitter and hateful towards her, and that I would one day see why she did what she did, and understand she acted in my best interest, and that I should grow up and learn how to see nuance in these situations. I told her I wouldn't see anything any differently, and she responded that I couldn't keep her a villain in my story forever. Am I the idiot? There should be a special prize for that level of idiocy. Geez Louise. No, sweetheart, you are not the idiot. But she needs to seriously consider who she was trying to help throughout that nightmare scenario, as I strongly suspect it had nothing to do with you. Also, very telling is her immediate desperate need for validation from you, subsequent complete dismissal of your own feelings, and the audacity to chastise you like you're still a child. She should not be in care. A career bureaucrat who thinks her one-size-fits-all approach is always best, even though every case is different. She will never see what she did wrong, but you sure as heck don't have to agree with her delusions. If she ever says she can't always remain the villain to you again, I would respond with something like, "Want to bet? You need to report this social worker for harassment. You need to report her to her employer for harassing you in the street and seeking you out on multiple occasions. You need to say that such behavior re-traumatized you due to her actions towards you as a child. You should also apply for a restraining order due to her ongoing harassment." The fact that she has a hero complex says to me she's not in it for the right reasons. I, 27 male, am married to my wife, 26 female. We will call my wife Bailey. I also have a sister who we'll call Emma, 29, and a cousin who we'll call Nicole, 32. My wife and sister dislike my cousin. They're always making snide remarks and being rude, especially since my son and my niece were born, about a week apart. They're now toddlers. So here's the backstory. My cousin Nicole did not have the easiest life. Her parents are genuinely terrible. She raised all three of her siblings by herself for the most part. When Nicole was 18, she was in an abusive relationship and got pregnant. It was bad. The pregnancy was awful for her. She found out she had something wrong with her uterus, and then she found out that there was something wrong with the baby. He had some sort of cyst, and half of his brain didn't develop. She was told he'd never walk, talk, or have any sort of life. She ended up going into labor early and nearly bled to death and had to deal with having a preemie with a disability. She worked 2 jobs as a single mom. She fought for that baby, and now you wouldn't know anything was wrong with him. She had him in every therapy she could get him in, and she still does. As far as I know, my cousin has never done a single drug. She doesn't drink, she doesn't party. She's remarried to a guy who seems great and owns a small farm. She homeschools her son due to all of his issues. She does a lot of community work. Honestly, the woman may as well be superhuman, in my eyes. Most other people would have buckled under the pressure, and she's taking it in stride. Last year, she had a loss and had to have several surgeries, and she's currently pregnant again. Hopefully this one works out for her. Anyway, my sister swears she saw my cousin smoke a cigarette during her first pregnancy and believes that's the reason the child turned out the way he is, which is absolute BS. Even if she did, it wouldn't have caused all those issues, and my cousin was going through an absolute nightmare during that pregnancy. I'm honestly surprised she was still standing. A cigarette was the least of her worries. My cousin told everyone she was pregnant again recently, and my sister and my wife made a snide remark about not screwing this one up, and my cousin let them have it. She basically told them that they wouldn't survive if they were in her shoes, and that they weren't better than her. And when they have to deal with a disabled child, single parenthood, 2 jobs, and pumping every 2 hours, then they can speak to her about it. They also made snide remarks about breastfeeding, and I know for a fact my cousin pumped because I accidentally walked in on her once, so I don't know why they think she didn't, and that makes them better. They've never had to deal with a single thing she's dealt with in their perfect lives, which is absolutely true. Both my sister and my wife have been absolutely spoiled their entire lives and have never had to deal with anything hard at all. Pregnancies haven't had a single hitch. Neither of them were ever single parents, nor did they have to deal with the babies by themselves at all. Anyway, my cousin was angry, and by the time she walked away, my wife was crying, and my sister was just angry. She was called out publicly. My wife asked me why I didn't defend her, and I told her my cousin was absolutely right. The only thing they had on her was a single cigarette years ago. It's insane to think that they're somehow better than her, and what they said to her was absolutely appalling. She needed to really think about what all my cousin had been through, and then apologize. She could learn something. Anyway, now my wife and my sister are both mad at me, and my wife hasn't spoken to me since Saturday, when this all happened. I'm wondering if I was an idiot for how I spoke to my wife. I feel like what I said was true, but maybe I should have said it nicer or something. I don't know. Honestly, your wife and your sister better be glad she didn't drag their butt across the yard beating it for what they said to her. Your wife and your sister are absolute witch idiots for what they said to her. And I, for one, am glad that you let them know that your cousin is right, because someone needs to stand up and call them out on their better-than-thou witch attitudes. Honestly, if my partner or spouse behaved like that, it would be enough for me to ask for some space, or at least a separation to reconsider my relationship. I'd probably skip that step, though, and end it. I couldn't love someone who behaved like that to other people. I've been the person hurt and bullied like that. I won't tolerate it happening to other people, even when it happened to me. Yep. Is this really the woman you want to spend your life with, OP? It's such a low, cruel level of mean girl behavior that it's just shocking. Why are you married to such a vile person? I mean, you can't choose your biological family, so you're stuck being the brother of a complete witch, but you have a choice with your wife. Are you okay with that? Your choice of being with someone like her reflects just as poorly on you as her remarks do on her. You're not the idiot in this situation, but you will be to yourself if you let this ride. My son passed away 5 years ago. His daughter's a teen and lives with her mom. She also has a teen half-brother. Less than a week ago, her mom married a guy who has 2 daughters. Last night, my granddaughter called me, begging me to get her out of this nightmare house. I asked her what was wrong, and she told me that apparently her mom and stepdad bought a 3-bedroom house together, and she was forced to share it with her older brother. I told her to send me the address and quickly went to get her. There I had a fight with her mom and told her that this is not right, and my granddaughter should get her own room. She screamed at me that they couldn't afford it, and I told her that they shouldn't have married then, and she screamed that moving in together was their only option, as they were both financially struggling. I told her that she was a crappy parent, and she should have never had any kids if she couldn't provide for them. And then she started crying and yelling at me. What do you want me to do? Make them disappear? I told her that I knew what she needed to do. She needed to let me have custody so that at least one of these kids could have a good life. I told her that I wasn't really asking for her permission and that I would try to get full custody of my granddaughter, whether she liked it or not. She called me a bunch of names and told me I couldn't do that, but I took my granddaughter with me and left. I'm planning to talk to a lawyer and see how I can get full custody, but she clearly thinks I'm an idiot since she's been texting me nonstop. By the way, my granddaughter does not want to go back to her mom. Am I the idiot for trying to get custody of my granddaughter? So why did this escalate into a fight? I get that your granddaughter's upset at having to share a room with her half-brother. Both of those kids have a right to privacy at that age, if at all possible. But the way both you and your granddaughter's mom seem to escalate to Jerry Springer levels of sensation, why? Shouldn't this have been a relatively simple discussion? Not the idiot for letting her live with you. You are the idiot for how you've handled it. You berated and belittled her mother in front of her and made sure that this devolved into an all-out screaming match. Grow up. Just based on how you wrote this whole thing, you are the idiot. You are deeply underestimating how expensive the housing market is in most places. Yes, it would be ideal if they had a 5-bedroom house, but they don't. The fact that you're screaming at her mother, demanding something that's clearly unrealistic for the family, the best option would be the 3 girls in one room and the boy gets his own room. The whole situation sounds like you're all being toxic and not willing to have a simple conversation. Custody is a huge leap from what you're sharing here, and I'm not seeing any evidence that you're more stable than sharing a room with her half-brother. I, 25 female, have birch apple syndrome, which means I'm basically allergic to apples. It's not severe, but it's very uncomfortable and even painful on occasion. My ex-boyfriend, 28, was never convinced that I had an apple allergy. He always bought apples, which I was fine with, but I wasn't okay with him trying to convince me to eat the apple. The reason we broke up is that he tried to prove me wrong and say that I'm not actually allergic to apples. So he added applesauce to my pancake, and when I ate it, after 5 minutes, I felt a burning sensation in my mouth. It was painful and very uncomfortable. When I asked if there were apples in the pancake, he told me that he had added applesauce. Of course, I got my EpiPen and was able to relieve the pain. Fast forward to the breakup. I told him that this was a very inappropriate thing to do, and if my allergy were severe, his actions might have killed me. He said I was overreacting. So am I the idiot for breaking up with him over an apple? Girl, you didn't dodge a bullet. You dodged a whole train. Your ex-boyfriend's actions were incredibly dangerous and irresponsible. He deliberately put your health at risk to prove a point, and that's unacceptable in any relationship. You were right to break up with him. It's also concerning that he doesn't believe in your allergy. Allergies are serious medical conditions, and his disregard for your well-being is a major red flag. You didn't break up over an apple. You broke up over your terrible boyfriend not believing you, deliberately compromising your health, and then doubling down when you had an actual reaction. In some jurisdictions, this would be considered assault, and you could press criminal charges against him. That's how serious his actions are, and how serious you should take them. Don't date idiots who are manipulative and seem to know more about your health than you do, and then disregard your actual safety. No man is worth that.